Previously, on the One-Eyed Film Podcast.
Arc does split screen tabs. Every time you move, I get flashbanged by the sun. it's
like, I have the power of the sun! Right, there we go. Me and the boys at 2 a.m. looking for beats!
And that was in 2019. It's gotten worse in 6 years. Imagine that you're 8 watching Despicable Me in theaters in 2010, and now in 2022, you're... I can't think.
It should be 20 years because it's 12 years. 8 plus 12.
Sometimes it's not about the novelty of the movie. It's just about the experience that has become a thing now. That if they know that people have created this experience through the meme, they will lean into it, because then they'll get more people to come maybe see the movie again through a different sort of screening, or more people to come see it because they're trying to check it out.
Are you watching closely?
Well, that's basically what you're talking about. Yeah, there's like an artificialness to certain memes that either are made by companies, whether they're trying to promote it or not, or advertisements. But I think the thing about memes is that they're so spontaneous, and because again, the point of the internet is that it's human interactions on steroids, because like the internet is just crazy, because like everything is communicated super quickly and ideas spread just like that, and they blaze through the internet. And so like there are, I think what we're seeing now is that memes emerged because people found things funny, and they made a meme, like the Star Wars trilogy, the prequel ones. There were things people didn't like or things people found funny. They made memes about it. Now we're reaching the point where studios are seeing that they're using either as advertising, as you're just talking about, either as post-production, or whatever. But they're trying to artificially generate memes. But the thing is, memes are always, there's a certain amount of just, you don't know what's going to happen. They're kind of spontaneous. And so companies are trying to capture more of that as well, in any circumstance that they can. And because like once a meme forms, like it kind of becomes there. Or like there's instances where companies are trying to incorporate memes that already exist and use them into their films. For example, use the Sonic the Hedgehog, because that's a good example. I watched like a video where it's like the memes that were seen from the Sonic community fandom that emerged from there. For example, the idea that Shadow likes Latinas.
And now back to La Última Pasión.
Última Pasión can only belong to one.
No, it can only belong to one.
Gabriella should kill them both.
Like that's like a nod to the people who know the fandom and the memes and incorporate that into it. But it's also more than that, because memes are a useful form of communication that have emerged in the internet age, and the interplay between them, between companies and studios and the consumers, that shapes a lot of dynamics in various different ways, because they're ways of communication, and there's a lot of them are spontaneous. You can't always predict what's going to happen, but they're a new way that companies are trying to figure out how can we use this to our advantage, as well. But sometimes they fail, and sometimes it doesn't work, and sometimes you can kind of tell that that's just a funny meme you're just doing just because you want attention. And so there's, again, it's just the interplay is what fascinates me most of all, and how they're a new form of communication that's like hyper specific, and very weird, but very interesting.
Yeah. Well, funny you should bring up the prequels, because the Revenge of the Sith re-released a couple weeks ago, about a month ago, and most of the Star Wars community has acknowledged that the resurgence in love for the prequels has changed drastically in 20 years. Obviously, memes didn't exist as much. Actually, I saw this earlier. Oh, the first meme. I think some people are saying like 1921. There's a cartoon. Oh, that's funny.
Well, because like when you talk about the first meme, that's going to be really hard to say, because how do you define exactly? I think there's like the idea of the first internet meme and what we think of as the modern meme. I don't know when, but that probably emerged in the early internet.
How do you think you look when a flashlight is taken? So the camera with the flash, how you really look. So
I'm just gonna say, with how crazy the internet is, I could very well see that being a fake, honestly. But maybe it's genuine. But that That's
Anyways.
also very strikingly good quality if that's taken from a newspaper, which is what I'm assuming that's from.
Maybe it was redesigned, but if that actually happened in 1921, my point is that the internet culture was not as big in the early 2000s when the prequels were releasing as they are now. Over time, the stiff dialogue had turned into very funny moments and, one-liners that can be added to almost any situation. Anyone says hello there, you obviously know what you're going to say back to them. We were watching the whole movie in theaters, and Zach was mouthing the words of the memeable lines right back at hold on, this whole operation was your idea. I guess I was doing it too. So it's something that has become fond to us to almost remember those memes that made you think this movie isn't so bad. It's just stupid fun. Yeah. Sheev Talks gave Revenge of the Sith a 5 out of 10, which sits it right in the middle, and that's okay. It doesn't need to be the greatest. It just is fun. It's fun to watch. It's fun to experience this transition from Anakin to the dark side, and then also just remembering the joy from the memes of these lines that are taken from the movie. So that's a difference that has changed and has garnered a lot of respect in how these movies are. And even Isaac has this theory that in 20 years, well, I guess 10 years now, because it's been 10 years, almost 10 years since The Force Awakens released. And so in another 10 years, it'll be the 20th anniversary. And he thinks that there's a possibility we will be just as accepting of the sequels as we are now of the prequels.
Possibly. I mean, you never know. I still kind of think that Disney Star Wars and some of the very distinctive choices they made are much more dramatic. But then again, I don't know. But I think what you're talking about. Sorry, you can go.
Before you go on, I'm just thinking about like what memes have already come up from the sequels, and they're mostly kind of coming back around to the Flash is like making fun of the bad parts of the movie. So the memes of the sequels are like, they fly now. And yes, they're not as memeable as the prequels, but like we're laughing at they fly now because it's bad. Just the same as we are laughing at some of the stiff dialogue from Revenge of the Sith. But it's like, it's different somehow. Maybe it'll change in 10 years. I don't know. But there's also not as much to quote from the sequels, if you know what I mean. I just want to get that in.
I think they kind of can hit that valley of just mid, the uncanny valley of mid, and I'm using this as the slang term because I think I've referred to it before, but there's the idea of you have good art that's just good art, like that's just some good stuff right there. Then you have things that are so bad they're good, which is like that's Troll 2, where it's so atrociously bad that you just can't help but enjoy because it's so bad. And then there's there's things which are kind of in the middle where they're just I don't feel anything, and that's the worst thing you can feel. And maybe that's how people will feel towards them. It'll be interesting to see. We'll come back in 10 years and tell you what you know. But again, what you're talking about though is like that fondness you're having is memes often have a sort of nostalgia to them because they emerge from a particular time and they you can think about them and you're remembering that. But also, I think the power of memes is that their communication, you use them as like a way to express how you feel towards something or just something funny. But also there is sort of way of taking ownership, I believe, of a certain film that emerges spontaneously. I think this is going to get a little worse as films and Hollywood tries to artificially create and sustain and develop memes for their own benefit. I think it's kind of ruins the enjoyment because, but a good meme is the idea that it emerges spontaneously. You find it funny. It's like, hey, it's like your buddy saying, hey, I got a joke about this. And then you laugh about it and you tell it to your friends and it becomes a thing within your group. That it's like that again on steroids, because that's what the internet does. It takes everything between human interaction and cranks stuff to 11. But a good meme is like, it's a way of like, I find this funny and this is how I interplay with it. It's, when I'm watching Star Wars and it says hello there and I say General Kenobi, like that's a way of taking ownership in a sense of the film, of that thing that you enjoy as well. And I think that's what also gives it more power, more potency, and again it's a way that memes are very expressive and powerful for that way. So but as I kind of referenced here though, I think that there's, as more studios are trying to jump into that, it kind of, I don't think it's going to, you can't really ruin Bless you. You can't really ruin memes because the internet is so big that it's so spontaneous you can never fully control it. But I think there's often, like, especially with like Marvel humor, like you can just see how they're trying to make things that are more memeable so that people will talk about it and laugh about it or whatever, but it kind of ruins because it just ruins all sincerity. Like, where if everything's a joke, then like nothing's worthwhile. And I think, again, the best example of that is Marvel humor, where it kind of emerged, and it was kind of original and funny. Where, like, you know, there wasn't like, everything wasn't a joke, but like they had like a lot of humor that downplayed a lot of elements that you normally wouldn't. But now, again, it's just become to the point where everything's supposed to be humorous, everything's a joke, everything's ha ha ha. Well, I bet he's gonna monologue now, or something like that, and then that kind of ruins the experience. So
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where we're going a little bit, and where it's going to be maybe a bit more difficult, where companies are going to be, you're going to have like an intern trying to make a meme, and then if everybody does it, then it's like, oh, look at that, they're relatable. Wow. It's like, hello, fellow kids.
How do you do, fellow kids?
I too am funny and can meme. Ha 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 ha. And it's like, it's not the same when you have it that emerges spontaneously. So I think that's going to be interesting to see how it goes. Again, in like the next 10, 20 years. Again, it's not going to ever go away or really lose its charm, but I think it's the relationship between the internet per se, and especially meme culture and how it's used, is changing. And we've seen that as the companies are trying to use that as a new way, because it's always a new way to get more eyes on their product.
I had another version of memes to talk about, and it's Shrek. Obviously, Shrek has it's a comedy movie, the original, or all of them are comedy movies. But as the fifth one is rolling around, they dropped a teaser. And there were Shrek memes in the teaser, which were self-referential. You know, people have been taking the 4 movies and couple spin-offs of Shrek. And, you know, he's a very
memeing them to death.
Looking character.
Memeing them to death.
100%. You know, you can have Shrek in GTA as a mod. You can put him in anything, like dancing. It's just very memeable because it's a funny movie. And yet the 5th one comes out and they start referencing these memes, and it's very odd to see it in that style. First off, because the movie looks different because they've changed its style, but also because they're like I said, it's self-referential, and it just seems wrong to do that. It feels like they need to be these separate things of Shrek's world and our world, and they don't match. And when they do, sometimes it's fun for references to real world things. But sometimes it's like, I don't know. It doesn't seem right that Shrek should know that he has fans in our world. And yet, I don't know, it's more of just a concept that the directors thought, hey, let's reference these very popular memes. So I don't know.
Well, and that's exactly what I'm talking about, though. That's pretty much a perfect example where it's the artificiality of it, where Shrek emerged from a particular context, a particular time. That's, you can see with the animation. People found it funny. It has a meme culture that emerges out of it, and that meme culture is very popular. It's well known because of that. And so, people, if you're trying to make a new movie, how do you get more eyes on it? You embrace that meme culture. Again, it's the idea of like, hey, hello, fellow kids.
How do you do, fellow kids?
I too am funny and can meme. Look at this. See, I know the Shrek memes. Wow, aren't we cool? It's that. And what you're talking about there is exactly what I've just been talking about. The disconnect where you make the memes, or the community that you are a part of makes the memes, and that feels like it's ours. You know, we have a bit of ownership. It feels more authentic because I found this funny. I'm telling you, you tell others, or you learn it from this community, and you incorporate it into kind of your identity with that community, and it's funny, it's enjoyable. We laugh about it. But whereas, like, you know, if Big Brother Company comes over here and like says, haha, I see you laughing over there, I too can relate, and or whatever, that's different. Again, you're talking about the artificiality of it, the fact that it doesn't feel right because the memes emerge. The best memes emerge because, like, you know, they're an ironic take on something that's a bit more serious or taking itself a bit more grounded. And if, again, you know, if everything's ironic, then, you know, no one is.
Nothing is.
Yeah, we're using the meme right there. We're using Syndrome's meme right there, which is, again, another example, like, where, you know, it's so pervasive and prevalent that you can't not think about it that way. Which is the other thing about memes, is that they're so imitative that they start becoming copied in the real thing itself. They become so prevalent that it can sometimes lose its charm if it's used too much as well. And that's where the case that we're seeing here, where with Shrek specifically, where they're trying to tap into it, use it for their own advantage to get people to talk about the film. I don't think it's going to be as good. Whereas like if it just does its own thing and people find that so good and so funny or whatever, that they make something off of it. Like meme is to kind of use Tolkien's idea, but in a very perverted sense, it's an idea of sub-creation in that sense, where you are taking this aspect of a film, whether you like it or not, and making it your own a little bit. You're adding your own spin to it. You're using it for a different thing than what it originally intended was. You're taking it out of its original context and creating something different and a bit new out of it. And there's a bit of a joy with that. Whereas if a company does that, they're only doing it because of a soulless desire to get more profits or whatever, to increase margins or whatever. That's different than as somebody who found it funny and thought, haha, I can make something with this. So that's that's kind of maybe our ending thesis, I suppose, for this episode. But that's like, the memes have power, and with everything, if you can use that power, there's going to be people who want to use that power for their own advantage, and I think that again, that kind of ruins it. But at the same time, you can also just take joy in the fact that memes are eternal. Some memes have been around for a very long time. They're probably not going to go away anytime soon. Or if they do, there's always going to be new memes that are authentic, that are original, that are spontaneous, that will emerge. Even if there is a lot of, even if the relationship between the memers and the meme culture and the internet culture that creates those memes and those communities that create those memes, and the relationship between them and the things they're creating the memes of changes.
The last category of memes that I have are popcorn buckets.
I've never heard of that.
You haven't seen all the popcorn buckets recently? That I think it's kind of dying.
Nope.
Because there's not any. Okay.
Thankfully,
so
my rock is protecting me from that. So
you're living under a rock. The Doom 2 popcorn bucket came out, and people are like, "You guys didn't think this through." The Deadpool and Wolverine popcorn bucket came out, and obviously Ryan Reynolds was going to make it as crass as possible.
What's a popcorn bucket? I think I might know what this is.
It's a bucket of popcorn.
So it's just so it's not a popcorn bag, but it's a popcorn.
No.
So is this like when you go to okay, explain this to me. So like if I'm going to, is this like when you go to like the movie theaters and you get can I get a bucket of popcorn?
Yes.
Okay. So so how is that supposed to be a meme though? Because like I know that's just like stylized and like, oh look, this popcorn bag or bucket or whatever has the Lego figures on it because I'm watching the Lego movie, or it has the Minecraft figures on it because I'm watching the Minecraft movie. Like how is that a specific new thing that's a meme?
Yeah. So,
or is it just that they're intentionally designing it? The design more recently has made the internet go, haha. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just like a memorabilia.
It's just odd to have to stick your hand in the sandworm's mouth for popcorn.
Oh, so that's what you mean. Okay, that's what you mean by Chris.
Sorry, I didn't realize I'd have to culture you on this.
I mean, I generally don't care. I just let me eat it.
Here is the Deadpool and Wolverine one. They need to stay away from popcorn buckets and mouths.
Well, that is you assume that I buy popcorn when I'm watching a movie.
That's true.
And why would I spend extra money on something that's dumb like that when I can just not? Or if someone else gets popcorn, I just eat it from them.
You are correct. My point is that the way to market a movie has grown into popcorn buckets as well, being funny to most people, and that's something that has been very interesting to see. I wrote it down because, we wouldn't be talking about it if it didn't exist. And somebody made the mistake of making the sandworm into a popcorn bucket. And it got a lot of eyes on it and probably brought more people to the theater to watch Dune Part 2 and buy the popcorn bucket. So it's another form of marketing that the internet grabbed hold of and ran with because they're like, this is so stupid. That's the essence of this episode is acknowledging that people will say that this person put a lot of hard work into is stupid. And that's kind of mean, but also it's true. And that's how things thrive and get eyes on the internet.
Yeah. Well, again, like that's exactly what we've been talking about throughout the entire episode. We keep on repeating the same thing over and over, but the relationship between the audience has changed because of the internet, and memes are the communication and interplay are quite key or quite influential, at least, in that. And the way that marketing works now, and at least as I can see, is all about relatability and irony. It's like, I want to be relatable and funny to you. That's what these films are trying to present themselves as, or trying to get you to like be, haha, that's so funny, or haha, totally me, I'm gonna go watch that film now. That's what they want. That's all that they want. And that's going to change the kind of the dynamic and the relationship between memes and movies, but that's not going to go any away anytime soon, because memes are the use of communication between the internet, in my opinion. And because of that, they're a very powerful tool, and as I've already mentioned, if it's a powerful tool of influence, people are going to want to use that to their own advantage. So I just, as a from a historical, sociological, anthropological perspective, it is very fascinating to see how that interplay works and relates and connects to each other, and how it changes and is changing throughout time. And like there's certain like relationships between audience and consumers that never goes away, but how that works, especially within the internet age, is just kind of crazy, but also very fascinating. And it's going to be interesting to see, like, in like 50 years, how that's going to look as well, and how much things are going to have changed, but how much they're going to stay the same, and what the way of marketing your product as a film is going to look like at that point.
As somebody who has a degree in history, what do you think? Do you think that memes are going to make their way into history books soon? Because they have to. There is no way to avoid their existence, even as it, like, you could say that they're a different part of culture, but at some point there's going to be some event, whether it's a movie like we're talking about now, or a world event, that is just so ingrained and intertwined with a meme that they have to bring up the idea of memes.
I think that it probably will, but the way that I view memes from a historical perspective is that memes are they emerge in our particular context, but they again, as I've kind of referred to before in like my little philosophical rant about memes, is that they express an inner truth, like a primordial truth, you could say, that makes them palatable, especially the best meme templates. So like, throughout all of time, people have been like relating to each other within a certain like ironic, funny sense. We just have no record of that. That's the opposite problem in the internet age, where everything is recorded, and it's so much that you can't really comprehend it all. I think what memes are is they are a popular culture expression, pop culture. They're not used by necessarily high society elite per se. Not necessarily. They emerge because people are that's relatable, that's funny, I want to share this to you. That's what they are. They exist in mass culture, and those have their purpose. But like in history, they don't change history per se, but they are a facet of American culture, of global culture now, that does exist, that people are going to have to recognize. I think that if you're going to look at a history book what memes would be is like when you're looking at a history textbook and it has that side thing that talks about like a special tangent. That's what I think memes are going to be like. Early 21st America saw the development of memes, which have now become blah 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 blah. That's what I think what memes are. They are a popular mode of expression that is used in the internet, and because of that, they're a popular culture thing, which don't necessarily always have their bearing on high politics and whatever. They might maybe have an influence on them, but like but they do have an interplay. But they're a popular culture thing. And they're not going to go away anytime soon, because they're just an expression of what people say. Like, people can always say like, I found this funny, I'm going to share this to you. Or, if somebody in 1900 said, when I wake up in the morning, I just, feel so tired without coffee, and they say that in a funny way, that's the same essence as someone who shares you that funny, like me at 1 o'clock without coffee type of joke meme. That's the same essence of it, but the way of communication is quite different. That's what makes memes different, and that's also what makes them more powerful in some sense.
Well, and you said what I was going to say. They're not going away. No. Unless something like there's a really cool audio drama called K63, I believe. It has Oscar Isaac in it. Yeah, K63 starring Oscar Isaac and Julianne Moore. And it's really crazy it's about time travel. And he says that in the future, the entire internet is deleted. Everybody goes back to the dark ages. You have to figure out how to live life again without the internet because AI gets too big to handle or whatever. And that unless something like that happens where we all of the memes that have been created, the billions of memes, maybe even trillions, honestly, they just get deleted because the internet is gone. There's still going to be memory of it. It might be a pastime, but you're right. It's not like somebody has to explain what a meme is, because even grandparents are getting to understand what it is. And so they'll always be here, and they're just going to change. That's the big thing, is they're going to change in the format. We've talked about many different formats for this episode. And part of me is scared because when I'm old and decrepit, I'm going to be like, what does this mean, grandson?
Back
What
in
is
my
it? I
day,
know it's
memes made sense. Now it's just skibbity rot toilet brain, blah, 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 wiggity
and
wog.
they already don't make sense.
I know. That's the great thing, too, is
hard
we're
part.
seeing the first generation truly being raised, like born and raised within the internet. And it's not looking that good. So,
No.
that's the thing about the memes are a staple because they emerge out of the human context, they emerge out of the human condition. And so that you can't remove that. And also they exist within the internet, and the internet's not going to go away because it's too valuable for too many people, and it's too worthwhile to too many people to have it be gotten rid of. So it's either an EMP, a giant solar flare, or the AI revolution, which will inevitably destroy us all. But not me, because I'm going to declare Butlerian jihad. So that's going to be on my ticket for 2035. Get ready, people. And that's a Dune reference too. So there you go.
Yeah. Cool. So what have we determined? That memes have shaped Hollywood differently?
It's not so much that memes are just, I'm going to keep on saying this over and over and over again, but memes emerge because they are the way of communication of interplay. The interplay is the key. And the memes are just one expression, one way of how that interplay between the consumer and the product and those who produce the product changes. And so the Hollywood is trying to use memes to its own benefits because they see the potential in them, but there's always going to be a certain authenticity towards the creation of memes. They're always going to be created because people are always going to find things funny and want to share them, and also because it's just an wave imitation and spreading an idea, and the idea itself is just, those will spread no matter what. So it's really fascinating to me how they have developed and how they work and how they're going to develop. But yeah, memes are not going away anytime soon, as we've already said. And just the interactions, those will change, but how and where and when, I don't know. But those are very interesting to see. And it's only going to be it's only going to get more crazy from here. So
it's true. Well, thank you for sharing your deep philosophical wisdom about the concept of memes.
Yep, I do love enjoying the diving into the deeper philosophical implications of things, because I think that's important. And memes have a surprising depth if you actually delve into them and what they mean, and what they mean, and what they're used for and why they emerge. So it's been enjoyable to consider this and think about how they exist and why and what we can think about them.
Listener, throw your favorite meme in the Discord, whether it's the concept of a meme, your favorite movie that's been memed, or your literal specific favorite meme. And we hope that you join us over there for more discussion, and that you will follow us and share this with a friend, because that would make my heart happy. So please do that. Now, before we stop the podcast and you'll never hear from us again. Anyways, we'll see you next week. And until next week, know your love. God bless.
All right, see ya. Take care out there.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
There is a will, and he is here, so it's okay. There you go.